Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of the Go with the Flow podcast. We are making our long awaited return after some personal business we had to handle, but we are back and we are coming with some instant analysis right away after an absolutely epic Game 7 between the Ottawa Senators and the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm Nick, joined as always by the fellas Dan and Kevin. What's going on, guys?
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
What's up, boys?
So, guys, just right away, the pace was insane. You think Pittsburgh's kind of taking control. They surrendered a couple one-goal leads, but Kunitz and Double OT, guys, initial thoughts, just fresh off just an absolutely classic game.
Yeah, amazing game, amazing series in general, and you got to give props to Ottawa. Absolute Cinderella story. And the chances that both teams had to end it were amazing. Both goalies played tremendously. It was absolutely exciting from start to finish. And obviously I'm a huge Hawks fan, but I was on the edge of my seat as if, I've been a Senators fan my whole life. So, really, really awesome hockey to watch.
Yeah, the pace that they had going, and I mean, pretty much the whole first overtime was insane. You would have thought that it would have been, the first period. It was just insane, and it seemed like there was a quality chance probably every 10 seconds. So it was definitely an entertaining game. Probably one of the most entertaining games I have seen recently, probably in this whole playoff. So, yeah, I guess hats off to Pittsburgh for pulling it out and, hard fought series. But I was personally pulling for Craig Anderson. Just based off the year he's had, it would have been a pretty feel good story if he were to get to a cup and potentially win one.
Well, I told you guys earlier today in our group chat, I said, we're talking about, what's the gut tonight, and I was saying my heart says, Carlson and, the Craig Anderson story, as you mentioned, his wife, battling cancer and just would be an unbelievable, be a fairy tale ending to, go to the cup and win it or, at least get there and, beat the defending champs. But, my brain was just telling me Pittsburgh at home in a Game 7. They just, throughout the whole playoffs and, this year and last year, they've just scored seemingly at will at home in the playoffs. I mean, obviously the last home game before Game 7, they scored a touchdown on Ottawa in a 7-0 win. So, my head just said Pittsburgh, but yeah, Ottawa played really well. They showed some resiliency, coming back both times. The pretty bad penalty there by Phaneuf, that led to the Schultz power play goal with 8 and change to go. And then to answer right back a couple minutes later and go to, overtime and eventually double overtime. But I don't know what you guys thought, but I just didn't think Ottawa was that dangerous in either of the overtimes. It was kind of a fluky goal for, as Edzo said on the broadcast, kind of an end-over-end puck by Kunitz. But to me, it seemed like Pittsburgh, any of the chances in either of the overtimes, it seemed all Pittsburgh. It didn't really seem like Ottawa was that dangerous to me.
Yeah, I mean, Ottawa definitely had some really good chances, I thought. But I feel like the really grade A chances were all sort of in Pittsburgh's favor. The first one that comes to mind is what apparently every Pittsburgh fan in the rink thought was a goal, even though it very clearly wasn't, which was the Kessel, kind of sharp angle shot that danced on top of the net.
The other one where he stepped and then where he missed far side too is the other one.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, those are like, like Kevin was saying, I was rooting for Ottawa as well. So for me, those were like, oh shit moments where, you're sitting there and you're like, well, Pittsburgh's going to score here. And I don't really know if Ottawa had really good chances, but I don't know if they had, really, really ridiculously good chances like Pittsburgh did. I know a lot of shots. Bobby Ryan had a couple. I think Hoffman had one and maybe Stone with another. They just kept missing the net, just by a few inches or something like that, or they'd get deflected. But yeah, I feel like most of the pace was in favor of Pittsburgh. I mean, it was a tremendous pace, which would benefit Pittsburgh anyway, with the speed and skill that they have. It's just kind of sad to see that the goal that won it was kind of a fluky one, literally the definition of a knuckle puck. And Craig Anderson didn't even have a chance. He never saw it. He just went down in the butterfly and
I think
prayed that
Pagano got in his way too.
yeah, Pagano, if he blocks that, we might still be watching some hockey, but he missed it. And if you look at it, he lined up perfectly with Anderson to the point where Anderson had no idea where the puck was going. So he just did what, every goalie does, which is go down in the butterfly and pray it hits you. And unfortunately for him, it went over his right shoulder. In a hell of a game to Kunitz, you got to tip your cap to him. He came out, he got the first goal on that 2-on-1, and then he shows up again and gets a timely goal, in overtime, obviously, to put Pittsburgh into their second final in 2 years. So, like we were saying, hats off to Pittsburgh. I just got really annoyed when Kessel had that one that danced over the net and the Penguins fans were booing the refs like the refs missed something, even though very clearly it never at all was close to going into the net. I just thought that was kind of funny. And of course they throw, their towels and shit on the ice. So that was kind of annoying, but whatever. I guess, it's a Stanley Cup final, or excuse me, it's a conference final game, game 7. So I guess they can be excused for a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It, just looking back on the both overtimes as a whole, it seemed like the majority of the time the game is being played down on Ottawa's end. As far as like most of the quality chances that you saw, the only one that I remember from Ottawa was when I think it was Mark Stone. He had it right in the slot and he took a slapper and it was just right in the basket of Murray. But Carlson was standing right on the doorstep and I was so pissed because he was wide fucking open. And if he makes that pass, maybe we're looking at a different Stanley Cup final.
I think Turris had a good shot on a drop pass. There's a drop pass in there too, where kind of at the end of Pittsburgh had been their end and Carlson was leading the rush and slowly entering. Turris kind of had kind of a snapshot, the high slot. But yeah, other than that, I just didn't feel like. Just felt like Ottawa. I wouldn't say they really ran out of gas. I think Pittsburgh they just really, I think, trusted the system, and they just played an overall really good defensive team game, and that's what you got to do. I mean, they're down, they're down Letang, the whole playoffs so far, and they're gonna be, and they've suffered some injuries, and so when you're kind of depleted, so to speak, on the back end, you got to just have good team defense and getting the last change and playing good structure really helped them. But what do you guys think about Ottawa moving forward after tonight? I mean, it seemed like the entire playoffs you're either relying on Carlson to kind of carry the offense and set the tone defensively, or you're relying on like Game 6, like you're getting outplayed, but you're hoping Anderson can steal you one. I mean, what do we think about Ottawa? Was this maybe their best chance to go to a Stanley Cup with this group of players, or do you guys think they can be right back in it next year? Just curious, where does fresh off now? I mean, we're just fresh off Game 7 and everything, but where do the Sens go from here?
Yeah, I think personally, I think that this was probably going to be their best year. And I had them beating the Bruins, but then losing to the Rangers. So I had them moving out of the first round, but that was it. I never really foresaw them, going to the Eastern Conference final, let alone forcing, a Game 7 in double overtime against the defending Cup champs. But I think this is kind of going to be their year. If you look at all the kind of conservative defensive teams like this, they might go a few rounds, but they never can get to the Stanley Cup final. You look at the team like the Blues, and they beat the Hawks last year. Yes, they beat the Wild this year, but eventually a quicker, more skilled team is going to beat them, which is exactly what happened. Same thing with Ottawa here. They play that 1-3-1 trap, which is really kind of boring to watch. And I mean, credit to them, like we were saying, for getting as far as they did. But I think teams are going to learn and adapt to what Ottawa does. And to me, you just can't rely on one defenseman and one goalie for 4 playoff series against teams that are stacked like the Penguins are. So it'll be interesting to watch them next year and see how they do, see if they get in the playoffs. See what happens. But I think as far as Ottawa goes, at least in my opinion right now, fresh off the Game 7 loss, I think this was their best chance to push for a Stanley Cup final appearance.
Yeah, I'm looking at their cap situation right now, and actually, I mean, the team's pretty much the same going into next year. You lose the rentals and Wingles. Stahlberg's going to be gone. Burrows, but
He's signed though. Yeah, they got Burrows locked up.
Oh, that's right. But other than that, they got another 2 years of him. But other than that, it's pretty much the same team. And like we saw earlier in the year, they got Jonathan Dahlen in that. Or no, fuck.
Do we want to cut this part?
Yeah.
We could have kept that. That would have been perfect. Oh, fuck. Let me check out what time it is.
Restart the whole thought on the cap.
God damn.
They traded Dahlen for Burrows.
Yeah,
and we're at the 11:30 mark.
Right when I was talking about it.
All right, 11:30, Kevin.
Sorry,
so just restart the whole cap thing. Yeah, looking at their cap. And
all right.
That was a beautiful oh fuck though, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, let me write down the time.
Yeah, as soon as you're ready, I'll just hit the timer again.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm looking at their cap situation right now heading into next year, and for the most part, the team is pretty identical to the one they have this year. They obviously lose the rentals in Wingles, and Stahlberg will be gone. They got Burrows locked up for another year or two, but I think one of the key losses heading into free agency is JG Pageau, but he's a restricted free agent. I think it's kind of a no-brainer for Ottawa to pick him back up because he's pretty integral part. He's pretty solid, third, fourth line center, good two-way game. As far as being, contenders next year, I really don't know. I'm pretty much in the same boat as Dan. I think just the nature of hockey and it being a fluky game, essentially, and just that teams can kind of, break out in any given year is, kind of makes me believe that I don't know if Ottawa will be able to return to this form next year. I guess time will tell, but definitely an entertaining team, especially with their depth at forward, and they got a pretty solid prospect pool. They got Colin White, who's a pretty, highly touted prospect. So I think on paper they're pretty set, but it's easier said than done.
I think you just got to kind of look at the teams around them too, and in that division this year, it was definitely a down year. Montreal, winning that division, they had 90 something points. Or wait, was that right? Or did they have over 100?
I don't think they had over.
They were just below, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the time, Dan? I'll restart this.
No, just keep it going. Keep it going. We're hot.
All right, I'm gonna restart.
We're at 13 and a half minutes.
All right. 3, 2. Yeah, I think when you kind of look at how's Ottawa going to bounce back, you just got to kind of look at the teams around them, and it was kind of a down year in that division. I don't believe Montreal even hit the 100-point mark, and they won that division. Boston's been iffy the last 3 years, obviously making the coaching switch and squeaking into the playoffs after having missed the 2 previous years. But, when I'm looking at that division next year, I'm definitely thinking that Toronto is a young team. They're going to improve, and I'm fully expecting Tampa Bay to bounce back next year. So, you know, it's just that, maybe this was their chance. And it's so hard to win in the playoffs, and it just kind of worked out that they were kind of playing, they're playing a weaker division. And if that division gets better, the first couple rounds are going to be a little more difficult than they were this year for them. But, I really like their team. And, when I'm thinking about their chances next year, it's not really it's not that I don't like their team. It's that there's a lot of intrigue that I have for the teams that are in their division. I think, maybe Toronto. It's still early for them, and they're definitely ahead of schedule, but you're looking for them to make the next step. And Tampa Bay is going to get, Stammer back, and maybe they go out and pick up a Shattenkirk or something like that. So I'm sure them and the Rangers will be going heavy after him. So, I think that division's going to definitely be better next year, and be interesting to see what Boston's like with a full year under Cassidy. So, we'll see. Time will tell. But, when you get this far and you play that conservative defensive style that Dan mentioned, chances don't come around too often. We're Blackhawks fans. We know full well, 3 cups in, 7 years, and then, you score 3 goals in 4 games or whatever it was. So, I think they probably blew their best chance. They definitely have a opportunity to get back, but I just think the teams in that division are a lot of teams in that division could be on the rise.
Yeah. And the point that Kevin made too, sort of, I completely agree with it. You mentioned it's fluky things happen. Teams come out of, left field, like how Ottawa did this year, and then you look at past teams that have gone really far in the last decade, whether it's a conference final appearance or a Stanley Cup final appearance and losing, and it really shows you the parity that's in the NHL and how everything's constantly shifting. I mean, the Philadelphia Flyers went to a Stanley Cup in 2010, and, they've, in the last 7, I don't know how many times they've been in the playoffs, but they've kind of been like an on the fence team around game 82, for getting in the playoffs. And if they
How
make
about
the
the
playoffs,
Kings?
exactly, the Kings, they've missed the playoffs twice in 2 years. They've also won the cup twice in 2 years, which still just boggles my mind that they've missed the playoffs twice in 2 years and also won a cup twice in 2 years. But my point being is, things completely shift. And like you just said, Nick, the Hawks win 3 cups, and then the last 2 years they get beat in the first round, and, they're out on the golf course a lot sooner than any of us would have liked. So for me, Ottawa, it really is one of those Cinderella teams that you really wouldn't expect them to come back as strong as they did this year. Like you said, I think their division's going to get tougher, and I think the Metropolitan's going to be just as tough as it was this year. I think Columbus can make the same sort of run that they did this year. I fully expect Pittsburgh, win or lose the cup. I fully expect Pittsburgh to be in it. Capitals, are going to be back up at the top. So, the Senators, who knows? They might get squeaked out, and they might be on the outside looking in come, April of next year.
Yeah, and it's so impressive, for Pittsburgh to make it to back-to-back cups. Speaking, to the point that you had about the parity, but I think we all want to do a Stanley Cup preview. Let's maybe recap the Anaheim-Nashville series, thoughts on that series, and then we can talk about the yellow Stanley Cup matchup of Nashville and Pittsburgh, or whatever you want to call it. So, any thoughts on the Ducks Predator series? Obviously, the big storyline there throughout the series was Johansson and Kessler, and obviously Johansson's now out for the entirety of the playoffs, which we'll talk about. That's surely going to impact their chances of becoming champions. But he gets hurt, and then Gibson's not even able to play, in a game 6. But I mean, you look at the series, and Anaheim's got all those great centers, down the middle, and Johansson goes out, and so does Fisher, and yet even with the center depth, Anaheim suffers their own injuries. They got their whole defensive Their defense was healthy, for that series, but I think word is now that Lindholm and Vatanen are getting surgery. But guys, just your thoughts on how that series unfolded and Nashville kind of, you're like, oh God, Johansson's out. What are their chances now? And, all they do is go 2-0 and, games 5 and 6 without their number one center.
Yeah, I think Johansson being out is really going to hurt them. He's been a crucial part of their game, scoring timely goals, all that sort of stuff. I think in order for the Predators to be successful, they're going to need guys like Mike Fisher to step up.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about the Ducks series, and then we'll do the cup preview.
Sorry.
Just restart it.
No,
yeah.
okay.
What time are we at?
Hang on. Sorry, I'm on my phone and I'm at my uncle's house. I'm trying to get to my car so I can charge my phone, so I'm kind of all over the place right now. I should have cut that before I even started talking. Give me 1 sec here.
Here, Kevin, you can lead it off then.
1 sec.
We're at 19 and a half minutes. Actually, Kevin, you know what? You want to start this segment first? You want to talk about Ducks Nashville first, and then I'll come in on whatever you bring up?
Yeah, I was just going to – my whole plan was I was basically just going to, say a little thing about how great PK Subban and Rene have been. I don't really have much to say, but I'll lead off with that, I guess. 19 and a half, as you said?
Go ahead.
Yep, 19 and a half.
Okay. 1 sec. What was the last thing you said, Nick?
I was just rambling about.
Did you say, what do you guys think about that? Or what do you think about the series?
Yeah, just your thoughts about how that series went.
All right.
Hey, can you guys hear me real quick?
The audio is a severe dip in quality.
Yeah.
Okay, give me. All right.
Sounds like you're in a walkie-talkie or something.
I'm in our Audi, and I was hooking it up to the phone thing.
Sick brag,
yeah.
All right, is that better?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We're definitely gonna just hold it up to the ear. I'm sorry, fellas. This is a little bit in shambles for me.
Sick brag on the Audi. All right, Kev.
Yeah, go ahead, Kev.
No, go ahead. All right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it was. That series was a surprise for me, especially with the loss of Johansson, like you said. I think. I was pretty surprised that they were able to pull out. I think what was he out the final 2 games?
Yep.
Yeah, but I think that really says something about the play of Pecorine for one and PK Subban as well. I was looking at something I saw online, and just the the matchups that Laviolette has matched up Subban with. He's the likes of Taves, Tarasenko, and Getzlaf and Kessler, I guess. I mean, he's just stepped up to the plate time after time and delivered, and just been able to shut down these top performers for any team that he's played. So I think, not to get into the finals, but I think that's something that he will have to keep up if they want to have any success. But that series as a whole, it's, really surprised me. I didn't really think Nashville was for real, to be honest, as surprising as that sounds, and with how easily they handled the Blues and the Hawks. But I guess, they are for real, and they're, a team that's very well capable of winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. I think as far as my predictions go and everything, Nashville's made me look like just a complete idiot. And hats off to them for how they've been playing, in the Ducks series specifically. Their speed sometimes can just be overwhelming to the point where, it's almost like the other team's screaming out mercy because of their puck possession game that they can play, the speed. And then, like you said, Laviolette with his matchups, timely goaltending from Rene, which we've seen in early rounds, and then it sort of disappears. But he's not screwing around this year. He's just been playing absolutely remarkable hockey. In Game 6, he robbed I think it was Cogliano very early on. It was one of those shots where it missed the net and it bounced to the other side of the net, and Cogliano happened to be on that side, and Rene went into a full split and made just an amazing save. And if that puck goes in, the Ducks are up 1-0 instead of being down 1-0. So, that might change the momentum of the game early on like that. So you don't know, maybe the Ducks would have won that if Rene doesn't come up with that big save. And he's been doing that, since game 1 against the Blackhawks. So, he's been playing really well. Hats off to him. They're absolutely for real, though. I had a feeling that if they beat the Hawks, they could handle the Wild or the Blues. But I sort of thought that they would just lose in the conference final to whoever came out whoever came out from the Pacific side of things. But obviously they again proved me wrong. So, this is going to be an exciting final for me too. Really skilled speed teams. But yeah, that Ducks Predators series was well done by the Predators. They played their game to the T.
I'm just continue to be amazed by the resiliency of Nashville. So going all the way back to the first round, you're the second wild card, the modern day 8th seed in the NHL, and you sweep the Blackhawks, who've won 3 cups in 7 years. St. Louis has home ice advantage on you. You win that series. Then you go and face Anaheim, who's gone on a decent number of runs and has guys that have won a Stanley Cup before. Obviously, Anaheim's got home ice. And then you lose your number 1 center, Johansson, and then Fisher also gets hurt. So there go 2 of your top centers. And then you give up a 3-1 lead in Game 6 at home in front of your home fans, and they still find a way to win that game. And still found they found a way to win games 5 and 6 without Johansson and Fisher, and found a way to still win Game 6 after kind of choking a 2-goal lead in the third period with, your first ever Stanley Cup final berth, on the line, and they managed to get the job done. So they're just a resilient bunch, and it's kind of foolish to continue to bet against them, it seems like, but I'm just amazed at the resiliency and their top 4D of Subban, who's been tremendous, who's just suppressed, the top lines of the opponents, and Yossi's great, on the power play, and, Ryan Ellis has come up with some big goals, and Ekholm's solid. I mean, their top 4 is unbelievable, and they're getting just, great goaltending out of Rene. Their top 4D is sick, and they're showing resiliency, and they're getting some goals from some guys that you never expected, some unsuspecting heroes. Colton Sissons with a hat trick, and Austin Watson are the guys that get the 4 goals to send the Predators to the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's a fairy tale for these guys that they're in this thing, but I mean, the odds were stacked up against them. You got to face these really solid teams that are dangerous in their own respective ways between the Hawks, the Blues, and the Ducks, but they found a way to persevere through, home ice advantage or lack thereof, and injuries, and some pretty interesting stuff that's unfolded over the course of the games, and they just continue to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, that's just another example of how just the fluky nature of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yep.
I, for one, thought that the Predators would be dead in 4 games against the Blackhawks, but
But how about Kev? How about Laviolette?
Huh?
Third team now for Laviolette. He's taken to the Cup 2006.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't lose.
Yeah.
Hurricanes. Yeah. Yeah, he said they were asking him about it in the press conference after the game. What's it mean to take a third team to the Stanley Cup? Obviously, 06 Canes, he won it, and then 2010 Flyers, who lost in 6 to Chicago, and then this Predators team, and they said, what's it mean to take your third different club to the Stanley Cup? And he said, I guess it just means I've been fired a lot.
Yeah.
So And I also heard a fun stat tonight that this is the first time a Stanley Cup final will be played where neither head coach is where one of the coaches isn't from Canada. Mike Sullivan and Peter Laviolette, American-born coaches. So it's the first time there's a Stanley Cup final that doesn't feature a Canadian coach. So kind of an interesting tidbit there that you got two American teams and two American coach clubs that are going to be squaring off, and also a couple smaller markets going at it, Pittsburgh and Nashville. I mean, obviously Pittsburgh's got star power, but Pittsburgh's a passionate fan base, but it's not the biggest market in the world. But I think if we're going to be honest here, boys, I think with Nashville going, it's a fun story to follow. NBC and the NHL, I think, took a big sigh of relief when that Kunitz puck went in, that it wasn't going to be Ottawa and Nashville, because, I mean, for us, it's great hockey, and I think we're true diehard hockey fans, and anyone who's listening is also, if you're going to sit here for 45 minutes to an hour and listen to us ramble about hockey, but we all love watching Carlson play, and, Hoffman and Bobby Ryan and those guys are all just, that's a fun team to watch there in Ottawa, but so it doesn't matter to us. But, yeah, I think Ottawa and Nashville would have been interesting to see what the ratings would have been there, and I think the fun story with Nashville combined with Crosby and Pittsburgh going for back-to-backs, probably going to draw a bigger crowd. And I've showed my dismay for the Olympics not going to be featuring the NHL players potentially in 2018. So hopefully, it's just a larger audience, and that can capture a new wave of fans. But let's jump into our preview, guys, and just give me your guys' opinions on Stanley Cup preview, Pittsburgh Penguins, Nashville Predators. Whoever wants to start it off, just your initial thoughts on the series.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, the NHL definitely is going to rest easy tonight, with Pittsburgh winning. And to be honest, I think a Pittsburgh-Nashville series is going to be more entertaining than a Ottawa-Nashville series, even though that's what I wanted.
True.
Yeah. So speed, I think this series could be compared closely possibly to the 2015 series between the Hawks and the Lightning. Both teams have some really good skilled players. Obviously, the notables for Pittsburgh are Malkin, Crosby, Kessel, all these guys. And then you've got their character guys. And then, with Nashville as well, they've got a ton of speed. Even though Johansson and Fiala are out, they still have Forsberg, who's been a force as well.
Yep.
So I think just a ton of skill, a ton of speed. This is definitely, looking at it now, this is definitely the Stanley Cup final. That's going to be way more entertaining for us, just as, general hockey fans, from an entertainment standpoint. So, even though Ottawa didn't win, maybe it is for the best that Pittsburgh won. I'm really excited to watch it. I love when two fast, skilled teams go up against one another. I've never really been a huge fan of defensive teams. Ottawa's probably the only exception to that. But, and then you've got two goalies that have been – Murray, came in late. He was going to start way back in the first round. He got hurt. Fleury picked up the mantle very nicely and played like he did in 2009. And then he got shelled in what was a game 2, 5-1 against Ottawa. And then Murray's been in ever since, and Murray's picked up right where he's left off. So he's playing extremely well. Rene, as we know, has just been an absolute force and the backbone of that Nashville Predators team. And the blue lines are both evenly matched, with Subban and Trevor Daley's back now. I know they're still missing Chris Letang. But I think both these teams match up extremely well. The coaches match up extremely well. They're both really smart and know what they're doing in terms of line changes and matchups. And then Nick, like you said, they might be smaller fan bases, but the those two arenas are some of the loudest in the NHL right now, especially Nashville. They are nuts down there. So they're going to be hooting and hollering and all that stuff. So I'm really excited for it. If we're doing predictions in terms of who wins, I'm going to say Pens in 6. I think the experience of the Pens is going to trump anything else that the Preds have to offer. I think the scoring depth of Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, and all them is going to be a little bit too much. And I think having Fiala and especially Johansson out now is really, really going to kill the Preds unless somebody like Fisher, James Neal, or is Fisher back from his injury, by the way?
It's
okay.
TBD, but
okay.
I'm sure there's optimism. But
okay. So let's say he comes back. I think he's in the wake of Johansson being out. He and Neal are really going to have to step it up and get some timely goals if they're gonna have a chance to hoist the cup down in Nashville.
Yeah, right off the bat, I think one of the key points for me about this series is goaltending. Like Dan said, Matt Murray just came in 2 or 3 games ago. And he's been playing well, but then you got a guy like Rene who's been playing well for about a month now. So I think that really, that's really advantageous for Nashville. But as far as just the series as a whole, I think I'd also agree that it's definitely, set up to be more entertaining than, say, Nashville, Ottawa. One, in that if for the casual hockey fan, if the fact that they're from Ottawa doesn't, bore you or draw you away from the series, it's the style of play. Like, let's be honest, guys. If you're like just a casual hockey fan, you see that the Ottawa Senators are playing in the Stanley Cup final, you're not going to want to watch that. I feel like
probably not. No,
like you'll watch Cavs Warriors.
Oh,
but yeah, don't even get me started.
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Like,
it's
the next couple years after this, at least too.
Yeah,
like,
honestly,
it's going to happen. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, and that was talking basketball. But,
yeah. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, but and their fan bases too. I think Nashville has one of the, if not the most underrated fan base in all of professional hockey. Because
I've seen a game there. It's wild.
Bananas.
They're wild, and
they're expecting. I think they said they're expecting like 30,000 people to be outside Bridgestone.
Holy smokes!
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the bar scene down there. It's got to be absolutely wild.
Oh God, that'd be really fun. But
yeah.
Anywho,
I think for me, I'm looking at the series, and I think they're when you're comparing different areas of these teams, I think each team has a significant advantage over the other one. I think Nashville's top 4 far and away trumps what Pittsburgh has on the back end. And I think with Fisher banged up, potentially joining the series at some point, and Johansson out, and Pittsburgh having Crosby, Malkin, and Bonino down the middle, I think Pittsburgh's got just way more center depth and, possibly Hornqvist coming back as well. So on the wing. So, and obviously having Kessel, is just an absolutely great sniper. So I'm looking at the forwards, and yeah, Forsberg's played well, but I mean the center depth might just kill Nashville center depth.
The center matchups are incredibly
yeah.
It's such an incredible mismatch. Just pretty much any.
But Bonino's unreal,
matchup.
So responsible. He's just like the absolutely perfect third line center.
Yeah.
To have, and Cross. Be them on different lines.
Yo, Nick.
Yes.
Start.
Your audio went out again.
Yeah.
Which part?
Right after you talked about Bonino.
I'll just restart that.
Yeah.
And we're at 36 minutes and 19 seconds on this edit.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Bonino. Fuck. All right.
Bonino.
All right. Fuck you guys. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bonino for Pittsburgh is just, perfect third line center. He makes me miss Dave Bolin from back in the early cup runs for the Hawks, where you got a guy you can chip in a little bit offensively, but at the same time he's responsible in the own end, and he can check the top six of the other team very well, and you can trust him in a big game situation, your own end, and can kill penalties. I mean, that guy's great, and obviously you've got world class future Hall of Famers as your 1-2 centers with 87 and 71, in black and yellow. So you just look at that, but I've talked about this before with matchups. I mean, Nashville's D, and Kevin touched on Subban before and how he suppressed the offense of some of the top forwards for their past run. But Pittsburgh having home ice and just the incredible mismatch the Penguins centers and just their overall forward group have on this Nashville team, you just got to wonder if they're going to be able to possibly wear down Nashville. But at the same time, Nashville's they're a tough team to play against. So, in Pittsburgh, I mentioned before they're banged up defensively. So, it's very possible too that Nashville's going to grind it out, and they might. I think Nashville's definitely going to have to play a little tighter than normal. Laviolette's got them playing a little more loose. And they got some good guys that can freewheel offensively, such as Forsberg and Neal, but they're going to have to play tighter. They can't be giving up chances. And as well as Rene's played, we're familiar with him, being in the Central all these years. He has the potential to crumble at any time, and you want to limit the chances that great forward group of Pittsburgh's going to get, and you're going to want to spend a lot of time at Pittsburgh's end because it's going to take it's not going to be – if Nashville wins the Stanley Cup, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly hockey to watch. It's going to be a fun matchup because we're expecting Pittsburgh to step up and be the fun team that they've been this past decade. But if Nashville's going to try to win, which they obviously are, it's the freaking Stanley Cup, for Christ's sake. They're going to have to play a little uglier style. So it's going to maybe be you might get some flashbacks to Trotz, the Trotz era more so than the Laviolette era because. They're going to have to get some goals from those unsuspecting heroes again and, make sure Pittsburgh's not in their own end. And the last change thing hurts with the home ice advantage. So as far as a prediction goes, Kevin, did you want to throw in your prediction too? It's kind of –
I was thinking about this. I kind of wanted to give it more thought, and then maybe I'd we're obviously going to come out with some sort of blog or some sort of content some way, but I kind of wanted to give it more thought before I throw out a prediction.
I'm leaning Pittsburgh early.
I've been leaning Nashville, to be honest, but I mean, I like I said, I want to give it more thought.
I just don't know Nashville. I mean, you got Neal and Forsberg. I just don't know. I mean, those guys are just gonna if they win, those guys are gonna have to have monster series. I mean, just monster. I mean, they're going to have to score at a pretty torrent rate because
the thing is, though, what scares me about Pittsburgh is just if they're able to get comfortable in the offensive zone, that's just so scary because just with the way they're able to move the puck and just find an open score just like on the weak side or whatever. It's just I feel like they'll win every single game 7-0. But I mean, on defense for Nashville, it doesn't really matter who you bring.
They might need those guys to be aggressive offensively and jump into the play.
I was just going to bring that up. There was a stat that came out, and I think it was during the Blues series. They hadn't made it to the Western Conference final yet, but it was something like 13 out of the 14 goals that they had scored at that point in the playoffs. The defensemen were involved on 13 of those 14 goals, whether it was Subban scoring them, Ellis.
Crazy stat.
Yeah, or tip-ins, passes. It obviously it doesn't matter, but 13 out of the 14 goals the D were involved in. So I think that is a huge, especially now with Johansson out, you could hit Johansson and he can, stick handle and snipe his way to a goal. Now, Nick, like you said, I think it's going to be a little bit more gritty. It's going to be a little bit more, to quote stupid Pierre, get pucks on net And, you know, they're going to have to crash the net. I think it's going to be ugly goals like that, where it's going to be second, third chance opportunities. You know, and Nashville forwards are going to have to prey on, you know, a weaker Penn's defense, especially like we've said, not Kunitz, Letang has been out. So I think the D, to me, the X factor is sort of the D for the Preds. They're going to be the ones that determine how close this series will be. And unfortunately for them, it's going to have to be on both sides of the puck.
Yep, absolutely agree.
It's going to be an absolute, you know, just hell. It's going to be hell for them because they're going to have to help out Rene as much as they can. You know, we've highlighted the offensive depth that Pittsburgh has, the pure skill that they have. So they're going to have to be blocking shots, you know, chipping pucks out, making smart plays, simple plays. And then, you know, once that puck gets in their offensive zone, they've got to be willing to pinch, you know, shoot, get the puck on net, you know, every chance that they possibly can get. So to me, that's the X. Usually I would go with a goalie as the X factor for a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
But for me, it's going to be Nashville's defense and how mobile they're going to be, you know, in defending the Pittsburgh forwards and then attacking Murray. I would assume Murray. I don't know why you would pull him at this point, but
No,
you know,
he's starting game one.
yeah, attacking the Pittsburgh defense and Murray. So, and then Laviolette's going to have to conjure up some magic, and you know, make Crosby's life a living hell as well with matchups, which I think he can do. He's that kind of coach that will be able to whip something up, and he'll be able to get somebody, you know, to give Crosby a hard time like he's done against the Ducks, the Blues, and the Hawks, Nick, as you highlighted. So
I think Nashville knows that they're outmatched down the middle, and they're going to try as hard as they can to, you know, make sure that Pittsburgh is not spending him in their zone, and they're going to try to maximize the amount of time they can spend. I think the D are going to be activated. I think they play such a tough style that they know the Pittsburgh Ds, you know, you got Pittsburgh's Ds banged up, and they're banged up down the middle. So they're going to try to spend time in the Pittsburgh zone and try to get those, you know, those greasy goals. But yeah, I think that the Nashville D are definitely going to have to be activated for them to win this series, and they're going to need Rene to keep playing the way he's playing. But I mean, you know, I say that, you know, Pittsburgh's forward group could possibly give Nashville a hard time, but even with how much they outmatch them at center. I mean, when you look at the past series, I mean, Kane and Taves and the whole Hawks forward group and Tarasenko, and then I don't even think Kessler got a goal, and I think, you know, Getzlaf and Perry were okay. They could have been better, but I mean, geez, like Nashville, just the top forwards on the other teams just have not performed in the first 3 rounds, and you know, I'm sitting here, you know, I'm wanting to bet against them again, you know, because it's, you know, it's Crosby, it's Malkin, it's Kessel, but just because Nashville's outmatched at center, I should note that it's not a guarantee because of their defense and the top 4 and their team defense and their top 4 combined are make it no guarantee that Pittsburgh's going to be scoring at will here. You know, and to accompany the top 4 in their team defense, you've got Pekka playing out of his mind right now. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get through one more round. But I mean, it's the unlikely hero thing. I've mentioned this a million times now, but I mean, they're gonna just have to try to win ugly. I think that your comparison, Dan, earlier with the Hawks Lightning series is kind of spot on, where that may be how Pittsburgh's going to wind up winning the series. I believe, and Kevin would know this for sure, I believe every game the Blackhawks won that series. I think that's a great comparable.
It was a one-goal game.
Yeah, and the Hawks only scored 2 goals in each of the 4 wins.
Game 6 was the only game where it was
you're right, yeah,
a 2-goal lead. And it was only for what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, there's the Kane goal at the end. But
right. Yeah.
Going back to the defensive matchups, I think it's I think it's a pretty interesting situation you got because on paper, Nashville definitely has the better defensive depth and just the better defensive players. But what I'm thinking is, in a way, the Pittsburgh defense is, I think they're more capable of, shutting down the Nashville forwards than Nashville defense is capable of shutting down Pittsburgh, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it's just the matchup.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's just in a way you got like the top pairing as Ian Cole and Schultz. I feel like just as a whole, the Pittsburgh D isn't like outstanding or great by any means, but it's serviceable, and I think it's good enough where they can get away with average play for a series.
I think another thing to watch here is this past series was, I mean, for Pittsburgh's coming off 2 straight game 7s, and they took care of business against Columbus in 5, but they're coming off 2 game 7s where it took a lot of energy and they're already kind of banged up. And Nashville, they're tough, they're a grinded out team, but I feel like going into the series at least, Pittsburgh obviously, they looked good the past couple games. I definitely think Pittsburgh outplayed Ottawa the past 2 games, or the last 3 games, 7-0. Anderson steals game 6, and then obviously Pittsburgh won tonight, and they had way more quality chances. So I mean, Pittsburgh's been playing well, but I definitely think they've spent a lot more gas than Nashville has to get to this point. If that makes sense, I think Pittsburgh's had a lot more trials and tribulations to get to the Stanley Cup than Nashville. I mean, obviously taking care of the Hawks in 4, and they haven't played a game 7 yet. Nashville has not faced elimination the entire playoffs. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nashville literally might just have a lot more to go, and they wrapped up their series. Wrapping up their series earlier, they're a little more rested, and we've already we mentioned for the millionth time now that Johansson and Fisher both might not be there in the beginning of the series because we don't know Fisher's official timetable with his injury. But yeah, I don't know if you guys think that. I mean, I guess that would help Nashville's case. Obviously, you would. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on the Nashville having a lot less stress getting here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like not only in the overall series they got their work done pretty quickly, but in the individual games too. I feel like they were never under a lot of pressure in each individual game. I feel like in the games they won, it was I'm looking at their scores, and you got fucking 3-1, 4-0, 4-3, 3-1, 3-1 against the Blues. So I mean, yeah, they're not blowouts by any means, but I feel like, I guess just the eye test helps too, but I feel like had an easier time in simplest terms in pretty much every single game they've played so far.
Yeah. I think, definitely like you just said, Pittsburgh's probably had more of the adversity with Letang being out. The 2 game 7s that they've had, they've faced 2 elimination games and they've come up big in both. And of course, Nashville's faced their share of adversity as well with their injuries. You don't get to this point in the year without facing some form of adversity. And obviously, just because you think one team's faced more adversity than the other doesn't mean that they deserve to win or anything like that. But I think definitely Pittsburgh has had the more challenging road to the Stanley Cup final than the Preds have. Who would have thought that would be a sentence that I'd be saying at this time in the year, that the Preds road was a little bit easier than the Pens? But that shows you how well the Predators have been playing. Like we've said, there's a reason why their road has been easier, and it's because they've shut down the offense of every team that they've played. And even when their opposing offense gets some chances, Rene's been more than up to the challenge to deny them goals. So, to me, this is a really interesting series, like we've been saying. Both teams sharing adversity, both teams with injuries, all that kind of stuff. So, I'm excited.
It also shows you how great of an opportunity the Hawks blew.
Yeah.
Not to get into that, but just pretty frustrating as a Hawks fan.
Yeah,
definitely. I think the key in this series is, Nashville. They've had a pretty, they really haven't faced too much adversity outside of injuries as far as the series have gone. But how those have played out, but it's not a series until the road team wins, and I just can't see Nashville winning this series if they don't steal one of those first two games. I think Nashville's got to take one of those first two games. You can't get down in a 2-0 hole against these guys, and the reason I bring it up is it's like, no shit, Sherlock, but you just gotta find a way to take one of those games, and Pittsburgh's gonna have the home ice, and they're gonna have the last change. We already went through the center matchups, but Pittsburgh's a team that's proven they can win on the road, and they've won some huge games on the road in these playoffs. And not Nashville's obviously won plenty of road games too because they haven't faced elimination. But I mean, Pittsburgh's a team that's gone to Washington and won a Game 7, and they've won in Ottawa, and they took care of business in Columbus. I just think that Pittsburgh's a proven road team in the playoffs for 2 years now, and they have guys that step up at the right time. And I think Nashville, with the matchups and the home ice against them, they just really got to take one of those two games, or else I think they can. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say Pittsburgh in 6. I think Nashville's going to squeak out a couple of these games, but that's kind of like my early mindset. But I need some more time to digest it, probably. But it's just so important that Nashville gets off to a good start in this series because, as much as I think it's going to be really closely contested because of how Nashville has the personnel to kind of play of rails, I think it's very important because if they get down 2-0 and have to kind of change the way they play, and they kind of have to start loosening up the D even more than we've already talked about them activating it, and let those Pittsburgh forwards have even more room to be playmakers. I think even though I think it's going to be close, the series also has the potential to be a runaway series, and I don't think a lot of people would be calling for a sweep or it to be done in 5. But if Nashville gets off to a slow start in the series, Pittsburgh could bury them pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. If Nashville's going to have any success, they're going to have to steal Game 1 or Game 2, and maybe the way they do that is they play the more Trotz style of play rather than the Laviolette. Who knows? I mean, you look at Ottawa. And,
it's a trap.
Yeah. It seemed like every time Phil Kessel came off the ice against Ottawa, he was throwing a temper tantrum because, he either couldn't get past the Ottawa D or he couldn't get past Anderson. So, maybe that's how they steal one on the road, is they just play, really annoying, stifling hockey, counterattack, and then maybe when they're at home they can use the crowd to their advantage because as we've noted that fan base is just absolutely nuts, and maybe they can be more aggressive at home, but definitely they're going to have to steal one on the road in games 1 or 2 if they're going to have any success, and that's going to put pressure on the Pens obviously when they go into Nashville, because that's a hell of a building to play in, and it's so hard to beat Nashville in Nashville. So I think, like you two said, I think I've got my prediction as Pens in 6. I don't know how the series will arrive at that. I don't, I think I need to digest, like you guys said, this win that the Penguins got and just kind of take a look at everything and see, how exactly I'm going to arrive at those 6 games. But for sure, Nick, like you were saying, the Preds do have to win one on the road if they're gonna have any success. And I think, to be honest, I think the same goes for the Penguins. I think if they can get one in games 3 or 4, that's just going to make their life a lot easier, obviously. So, it'll be interesting to see who can win. It'll be interesting to see who can win first in the other team's building.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said everything that I was thinking, that if Nashville wants to have any chance of winning this series, they gotta come out strong and win a game or 2 in Pittsburgh. I just think it's so crucial that they don't let Pittsburgh get settled in, especially their group of forwards. You can't let them just keep the puck in your zone and let them get good opportunities, because that's just a battle you're not going to win. It doesn't matter who's on defense. If it doesn't matter if Subban's still playing. Fuck, I gotta start over. 1 sec. I'll be right back. 1 sec.
57.50 is our edit on that one.
My fucking cat. 1 sec.
Your cat?
I heard cat. I heard my fucking cat. Shit.
Sorry about that.
Pussy
You guys still there?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. All right. Sorry. There's my sister. We have a cat. It's not even our cat. And it's fucking like jumping all over the windows and shit and breaking the screen. So I had to tell it to fuck off. Where were we at?
I had just recapped my thing, and I think you were just saying, what was it, like you agree, and then I can't remember.
Oh, I got it.
You said was they get off to a strong start, and then you said something about Subban, and then
I'll
start
Okay, I'll start over.
What time are we at though, Dan?
57:50, I believe it was. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, we should probably wrap up.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should wrap up.
Yep, pause it at 57:50.
All right, cool. All right, I'll start over. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you guys just said. I think it's obviously super important for Nashville to get off to a hot start and steal one on the road. And I think one of the key things that's going to need to happen if they want to have any success in doing that is, you can't, like I said earlier, you can't let Pittsburgh get comfortable, and you can't let them settle in offensively, because that's just something. There's just too much firepower in that forward group, and I don't think, regardless of who you have on defense, that's something that you're not going to be able to overcome. You just got to, use the physicality and the size that you have on defense if you're Nashville to give yourself an edge. Whether you're just making them, chip it into the corner, chip and chase, and making them win board battles, that obviously is advantageous for Nashville. So, yeah, it's just really important to get off to that hot start. As cliche and obvious as it sounds, it's just really important.
Yeah. Well, guys, puck drops for game 1 for Preds on Monday. So, for all of our American listeners at home, we're hoping you guys have a good Memorial Day weekend, too. So, guys, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but I'm looking forward to the start of series Monday, and maybe we'll be able to get another episode in here. I'm sure we will. During the series after, some of the first few games, see kind of holds. But, just going off what Kevin said and what I said before, I think Nashville's going to have to adapt to beat Pittsburgh, and I think they're going to have to win early because I'm fully anticipating a very close-knit series, but Pittsburgh could also run away with this early if they kind of take care of business at good old PPG or what's it PPG Paints Arena.
Paints, yeah.
Yeah, that is that just rolls right off the tongue. So
Bunch of sellouts they got there.
yeah, well, whatever makes you money.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, anything to add, or should we close up shop for?
I don't have
this
anything.
episode?
I don't have anything, Kevin.
If you're Nashville, you got to have Carrie Underwood sing the anthem. That's a plus.
Get some extra motivation in for Fisher, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could be helpful. It could only help.
because he's never had a front row seat for that. But yeah. So all right, guys. Well, happy Memorial Day to you guys and to everybody at home, and thanks for a good episode, and thanks for the chat, and take it easy, boys.
All right, fellas. We'll catch you later.
boys.
Yep.